Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today I'm going to be giving you the results for TNA's Slammiversary and my full review of WWE SmackDown. Very interesting combination over the weekend, and we'll get into it with the results for TNA Slammiversary. First match, Mustafa Ali beats Cedric Alexander one-on-one. Can't believe they're going one-on-one again. That's awesome. The team of Matt Cardona, Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, and Fandango, aka JDC, defeat Dark State, that's Dion Lennox, Osiris Griffin, Saquon Shigurs, and Cutler James. I have no idea who any of these people are in Dark State. Apparently they're an NXT act. Fine. Indy Hartwell beat Tessa Blanchard, and it looks like Tessa's going to NXT. Which, dig her. JC Jane becomes a double champion, successfully defending her NXT Women's title, along with gaining the TNA Knockouts title by beating Masha Slamovich. Leon Slater wins the X Division title by defeating Moose. Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Hardy Boys, defeat the Nemeths, Nick and Ryan Nemeth. The Rascals, which is Myron Reed and Zachary Wentz. Trey Miguel actually got hurt. Hopefully he heals up soon. And First Class, that's AJ Francis and Casey Navarro in a 4-way ladder match. And then we have the biggest whiff of the weekend, as Trick Williams retains his TNA World Heavyweight title against Joe Hendry and Mike Santana. Mike Santana, a kind of local boy, he's from New York. They're on Long Island for this easy title change, I guess. Not. Anyway, so that was TNA Slammiversary results. Now we are going full on into my SmackDown review. And we start off in the parking lot of all places, as we see MFT. So that's Solo Sikoa, Tala Tonga, aka Hikuleo, JC Mateo, aka Jeff Cobb, and Tangaloa, who was involved in a car accident in a parking lot, in which you see police and GM, intern GM Adam Pearce trying to figure out what's going on. We got an interviewer, backstage interviewer walking up with Pearce saying, "Look, we have no idea what actually happened. We're forming an investigation right now." Then all of a sudden, Cody Rhodes walks up and says, "Look, I got the contract for me and John Cena to sign later on tonight. I need you to look at it." So Pearce kind of opens it, flips through it, hands it back to Cody, says, "See you later." So that was a little jam-packed segment. I don't know how I feel about it. So next we see Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair backstage, and they're kind of just talking. With Bliss saying, "Man, it stinks that we didn't win the tag titles." But then Charlotte Flair said, "Cheer up, because I got us our tag team title shot for SummerSlam, because I went and asked the GM." Then Bliss kind of turns to Charlotte, asked, "You just asked for a match?" Then Charlotte says, just because I'm part of a team doesn't mean I'm not Charlotte Flair. So then Charlotte's like, look, I got a one-on-one match coming up against Raquel. Why don't you come out be my cheerleader? Oh, and by the way, we're still not friends. I'm going to say this. Love this tag team. Love they're getting a spot at SummerSlam. I am sick and tired of this trope of anybody just asking for a title shot and they just get it. What happened to number one contenders matches? Hell, I'd even be okay if Charlotte was like, oh, didn't get pinned, so I don't know. That just feels lazy and uninspired. So we go to our first matchup of the evening. We got Charlotte Flair with Alexa Bliss taking on Raquel Rodriguez with Roxanne Perez. And this definitely started out as a Raquel Rodriguez domination. But then Charlotte did take over, hitting a dive to the outside, gets Raquel back in, but then Roxanne kind of gets in Charlotte Flair's face. Then Bliss just kind of gets in Roxanne's face, and they just walk off. Charlotte Flair fights back a little bit, counters a Tiana bomb, goes for the figure eight, but Roxanne Perez gets up on the apron. Charlotte with a big boot to Perez. Perez then with a jawbreaker, which that was a little awkward. Then Raquel with a roll-up. Charlotte with a roll-up to pick up the win. So, I think we pretty much know who's going to be walking home with the tag titles. So then we see Adam Pearce. He's in the back. He's talking on the phone with, I'm going to assume Nick Aldis, but I'm not sure. Then he walks into, at first I thought it was security, but it was a police force. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So they asked about Jacob Fatu. Do you know where he is? Because he's a person of interest in the accident earlier. So Adam Pearce leads the police over to Jacob. And the officer says, look, we have a question on what happened with the accident. You need to come with us. Jacob tells him, look, I didn't do nothing, man. So, the officers walk Jacob off. And something tells me we'll see him again a little later. Then we get a Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill hype video, which was really, really good. Then we get a highlight video from R-Truth versus Aleister Black from last week, which Truth won via disqualification. Then we see Damian Priest in the back. He's looking for Aleister. He finds Carmelo Hayes talking with some random backstage person. So Priest asks, hey, have you seen Aleister? Hayes says, no, but I definitely warned you about this. Priest goes to walk off. He comes back, he says, you warned me? Someday I'll find out. And I'll get you praying for your forgiveness. I'm the guy who gets in the ring and shuts mouths. So how about you versus me tonight? So Priest walks off. Hayes then says to his back, just because you're a former champion, you don't scare me. So, we go into this next matchup as Carmelo Hayes faces Damian Priest. As Hayes, it looks initially like he's going to attack Priest while he's still doing his entrance. He kind of backs off for a minute. Then Priest goes to another turnbuckle, That's where Hayes kind of attacks him. And we are underwear. I did not mean to say that, really, but a really good back and forth match. Couple of weird moments, including what looked like a splash in the corner, but it could also be in a clothesline. Then Hayes, Priest with a what looked like a super kick, but they called a side kick. Eventually, Hayes hits La Mystica, in which I am finally glad the announcers are calling it that. And it finally has a name. Doesn't go for a pin. Instead, Priest elbows out, attempts the Razor's Edge, but that gets blocked. Hayes goes for a splash, misses. Priest goes for a South of Heaven chokeslam, that gets blocked into a code breaker. Hayes then hits a beautiful frog splash for a 2 count. Hayes then goes for a crossbody. That gets caught right into a flatliner into the announce table. Priest gets Hayes back in. He goes for his old school neck breaker, I guess he does. But as soon as he gets up there, Aleister Black ends up on the apron, pushes Priest off the top rope. The bell rings. Black mass to Damian Priest. Looks like he was going to do the same thing to Carmelo Hayes, but Hayes bails to end the match. I am going to say this. I appreciate WWE trying to protect Carmelo Hayes and maybe involve him in some higher up storylines. Can we have a legit finish to this match, please? I'm not asking for much, but we have seen so many disqualification and non-finishes from not just WWE over the years, but from pro wrestling in general. If you're going to have a match on TV, make sure there's a finish to it. All I'm asking. So then we go to the videotape as the Wyatt Six are cutting a video promo, which, great to see. I'm not going to go through what everyone says, so I'm just going to keep it in general. So, starts off, look up, we are where we belong, we don't fear you, we come by this by blood, and blood will be ahead. One by one will strip you of your humanity, and the only thing to stop us is fire. So, I don't know if this is going to be like a Frankenstein's monster situation. Are we heading for a tag team Inferno match at some point? Because, honestly, either way, that sounds fun. And then we see the MFT come out, Solo taking charge. Where he says, tonight is the perfect example of who Jacob Fatu is. Without my guidance, he is a loose cannon. I gave Jacob the world. I brought him into WWE, put food on his table, made him a champion, and he deserves none of it. He betrayed his family, and once a criminal, before he can get the whole thing out, the crowd starts to boo. So he starts it again. Once a criminal, always a criminal. At that point, on the Tron, we see Jimmy Uso in the back. A police car is coming, skidding around the corner. And Jacob is led out of the police car by the officer. Officer says to him, you are clearly not the person of interest we needed, so why don't you go handle your business? So Jacob Fatu heads to the ring. He makes his full entrance, which is just weird. And as the entire MFT gang is looking at him, Jimmy Uso slides in behind him, takes out Tala Tonga first, And then we got a big brawl in the ring. Initially, we see, the babyface is at a disadvantage. Jacob and Jimmy super kick Tama Tonga over the announce table. But then he comes up like a gigantic kaiju from behind it. Goes for a double choke slam. That gets blocked. Couple of super kicks. Big crossbody by Jimmy. Then Jimmy gets Jacob a chair. Solo is about to just strike Solo with it. But Tama Tonga grabs him. Grabs Solo. Gets him out of the ring. JC Mateo and Tanga Loa then continue the attack on Jacob and Jimmy. Jacob and Jimmy then even the odds with a couple of super kicks and a Jacob hip attack. Jacob then picks up the chair, puts it on the neck of Tama Tonga. No, I mean, this is still Solo, I think. But JC Mateo intercepts. Super kick, Uso splash to JC. Moonsault to Tongaloa. And they pick up both their chairs. Just continuous chair shots. With Jacob talking down to Solo, who is walking up the ramp. Then out comes Adam Pearce, who says, you clearly framed Jacob for what happened in the parking lot. Let's see how you like being locked up. So you're going to defend your United States title versus Jacob at SummerSlam inside of a steel cage. So then out comes the local police department. You see Solo screaming, "Get him! There he is!" Then it looked like one of the officers was going to go right for Jacob. Instead, he grabs Solo's arm, puts it behind him in one fell motion, and puts handcuffs on him. That, honestly, was a very skilled officer. That was cool. Like, it was one motion. 1 minute, you see Solo's arm up here. The next, it's behind him. That was great. Then we see the Jelly Roll Randy Orton interview / brawl with Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre on the Late Show with Jimmy Kimmel, which I didn't see originally because I don't really watch late night television. But that footage was absolutely cool, including Jelly Roll chokeslamming Logan Paul through Jimmy Fallon's announcer table, which that was pretty cool. So, and next up, we got Stephanie Vaquer taking on Alba Fire, and it's over. I mean, there was definitely some things going on. Vaquer hits the Devil's Kiss, attempts a powerbomb that gets blocked. Alba Fire attempts an Unpretty Her, but that gets blocked. Into the SDV with your winner, Stephanie Vaquer. What's kind of interesting was what happens post-match as Piper Niven attacks Vaquer. Attempts the Vader bomb, but Stephanie moves out of the way. Pushes Niven over the top rope. And then hits a kick on Alba Fire to send them to have Vaquer stand tall. Match was pretty pointless. After the match, attack was pretty predictable. I'd like to see a little more from WWE with their women's division, especially someone as talented as Stephanie Vaquer. So next up, we see a backstage interview with the Street Profits, who are once again hanging out with B-Fab, who I thought was doing her own tag team thing. I guess that's over. With Montez Ford starting this out, saying, "Last week was a good week for the Wyatts. They took their titles from us by any means, but that is not a reality we want to live in. We're not going anywhere anytime soon, and we'll get our titles back." So then the interviewer asked about the number one contenders match coming up soon, with Dawkins saying, "You see what happens?" And before he can continue any sooner, DIY comes in with Ciampa taking the lead, saying, "Oh, look, it's the guys who blew it versus the Wyatt Six. Now we're going to go out there and prove you guys don't have what it takes to hold the tag team titles." So that leads us to our main event match. We're going to have a main event segment in a minute, as we got DIY taking on the Motor City Machine Guns, taking on Fraxium, taking on a little bit of a Franken team, but a believable Franken team, if that makes any sort of sense, of Andrade and Rey Fenix. And I'm going to say this, I think this team does make sense. Like, usually with Franken teams, I'd be kind of against it, but their pairing kind of works. And honestly, this match was absolutely beautiful. Everyone played their roles really, really well. The action was so crisp and just... oh, it was so good. So near the end of the match, Andrade hits the message on Gargano. Candice LeRae then distracts Andrade so that Gargano can hit a roll-up, only for a 2. Gargano goes for a big boot on Andrade. Andrade bails, hits Ciampa, in which we see Andrade hit his elbow. Phoenix hit a dive on the rest of the combatants, and then Andrade hits the message to pick up the win, in which we see that tag title match coming next week on SmackDown, and not on this first 2-night SummerSlam. WWE, what are we doing here? Like, for real, what are we doing here? Put this on, unless there's some other plan we got, like we're going to have a multi-man ladder match or something. But for good lord, let's get something for the tag division on SummerSlam. So then we see Cody Rhodes in the back. He's got the contract, and he's wearing glasses, in which that is the first time I've ever seen Cody Rhodes wearing glasses. He looked pretty good. No homo. Well, I'm not going to say no homo, but yeah, he looked really good with glasses. He kind of... I'm going to say this, and it's going to be a little odd, but he kind of reminds me of the Hypno glasses Superman wears when he's in his alternate persona of Clark Kent. I think if WWE plays into that with Cody a little more, I think it could be a really good gimmick. Anyway, so we now go to the contract signing segment for the WWE Undisputed title. Cody Rhodes comes out first, sits down on the contract signing table, opens up the contract, signs on the dotted line, closes it. Then he gets a microphone. He says, "I appreciate the great reception here. All I wanted to be was like my dad. But I got to be one better. I got to be the WWE champion. And I sent something over social media over the weekend. It did get a little overanalyzed, but I said I do not flinch was for myself. I stood across the ring from a certified Hall of Famer. I went back to back in the Rumble. I faced Jey Uso, Randy Orton. And when the final boss came for me and my soul, but I did flinch once at WrestleMania 41 against John Cena. And now I have an unenviable task to dethrone the best wrestler of our time, a task I was born for. And it takes two for this to work. So Adam Pearce announces John Cena. And Cena's music does hit. At first I thought, oh, he's not going to come out. It's going to be a video promo, whatever. Then Cena comes out. And I'm like, oh. So he's going to be here. So this under one roof thing was actually legit. Which I'm definitely cool with that. So Cena's like, Cody, you need to sit down. You got to give me a second. Cody, hi. I got some bad news for tonight. I'm not going to be at SummerSlam. Everyone knows I'm going to be filming a movie for Netflix in New York City. And I feel like it's best that I don't compete at SummerSlam. Now, clearly, you earned your rematch. We can do it in Paris or Perth. But there is no way I can sign this. And I know you are all upset. There's nothing we can do. Because if I sign this, I have to be at SummerSlam. So this is a tough decision, but it's best for business. And you don't know how hard it was for me to be here tonight. I wanted to give you a night to remember, but this is all I can give. So I thank you very much, and I appreciate your understanding. Don't worry, Cody. You'll get your rematch. Good night. So Cena gets up from the contract signing table. He goes up the ramp to leave. But Cody, you see Cody in the ring. He rips off, not literally rips off, but he tears off his suit jacket. He bails out of the ring. He rushes to the top of the ramp. Catches him. They brawl for a little bit. They brawl back into the ring. Cena grabs his WWE title. Goes for the belt shot. Misses. Cody with a big kick, which downs Cena. Cody then picks up the WWE title. He's looking for it. He doesn't hesitate this time. He gives John Cena a belt shot right to his head. Cody then grabs the contract, but before he gets Cena to sign it, he sets Cena on top of the contract signing table, goes up to the top rope, hits a big old crossbody through Cena through the table. Then he grabs the contract signing pen, opens the contract, and he forces Cena to sign. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Cody then grabs the microphone, gets in Cena's unconscious face, and says, "You need to check the fine print, Cena. It's not just a match for the WWE title. It's a street fight." Oh, that's going to be interesting. So, first things first, we kind of had a story like this before WrestleMania, where Rhea Ripley signed a contract for the women's title match at WrestleMania, but that didn't really count because her name wasn't initially on the contract. So we're kind of going back to that again, which is fine. So I don't know if that's going to hold up, but we'll see. My next thing is the street fight. which has me thinking, oh, this is going to include, Cena's crew. That being The Rock, maybe The Rock, and, oh God, who's the rapper who's, I forget his name. It's going to be someone mention in the comments for me because I forget the dude's name. Then maybe we'll see the Cody Vengers assemble for one more time. I don't know. It's kind of pointing me in the direction of Tribal Combat without it being called Tribal Combat. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, at least. And it's a stipulation that can hide Cena's flaws a little bit. So, yeah, this show definitely got me a bit more excited for SummerSlam. My only real issue is the Stephanie Vaquer Alba Fire match. I do wish it went a little bit longer. Because Alba Fire is actually a really, really good wrestler. But giving her that amount of time just feels, I don't want to say criminal, but it feels wrong. So that'll do it for me for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Coming this Friday is obviously going to be my review for Raw. Maybe Power if it's not another recap episode. And then also AEW Dynamite. This Thursday, I'm actually going to be going to see Fantastic Four First Steps. I may do a review of that just because. And yeah, that'll do it for me. Till next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.